Welcome to the show. I'm Danella. Here's what's happening now. I'm thinking of changing the name of Political Pop to Days of Our Lives. Because, honey, it is drama. This has been ridiculous. So much has happened this week. I'm going to talk about what was the most shocking thing to happen this week. And no, it is not Manafort being sentenced to 3 years. That's light work. All right. Also coming up in the show, in our world this week, did you guys see this viral video of a mother in a food stamp office in Brooklyn? Police tried to rip her child from her hands. We'll talk about it. That story had me heated this week. Actually, let's just start the show and kick off with Political Pop. Here is your Political Pop. Man, the biggest news this week, the showdown in the Oval Office, starring Trump, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer. All right, Vice President Pence was there, but he was just silently watching. It got heated. The first thing is, who knew that this would be televised in this way, where there's such animosity between them? Here's the biggest problem. Trump is basically like, I don't care if you do not approve my $5 billion wall. I'm not passing any budget and the government will shut down. The due date is December 21st. So we are getting closer to that due date. Democrats are saying, hey, we're willing to give you $1 billion for your wall, but no, not $5 billion. And Trump's saying $5 billion or else I will gladly shut the government down. So if you have some time this weekend and you haven't seen it, watch it. And Nancy Pelosi later questioned Trump's manhood in reference to the wall. I hear you, Nancy. This would be funny if it wasn't really happening. I'm DanellaNOW, and that was your Political Pop. Let's keep this momentum going and kick off in our world. In our world this week, the NYPD, they rip an 18-month child from his mother. So here's the story. 23-year-old Jasmine Headley. She was in a food stamps office in Brooklyn, New York. So she's sitting on the floor with her 18-month-old son because there was no chairs there. She was there for hours. At some point, security asked her to leave. She refuses. And then this happens. This is sad. I mean, look at it to see women doing this to her, ripping her child from her arms because she didn't want to leave. And you could hear her yelling in the video. It's hard to hear here. It's hard to hear here, but you can hear her yelling in the video. They're hurting my son. They're hurting my son. So she was arrested, sent to Rikers Island, and thankfully, police have dropped all charges against her. And let me read to you what the police commissioner, James ONeill, said. I'll tell you, the video is very disturbing to me as a PC and as a dad. He says also NYPD cops have a very tough job. We were called to a chaotic situation and we're looking at all available video to determine why certain decisions were made. I mean, it's hard to really understand unless she had a gun. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to understand how it escalated to that point. Even the bystanders are shocked and screaming. And I can say, even as a mom, I can't imagine what that is like. She's in the benefits office because she needs help, not being able to sit in a chair. She has her baby on her lap, and just sitting on the floor for all this time. I don't know how it escalated, but I can see why she probably didn't want to leave. She's probably like, look, I need money. We need food. I need these benefits. And for the officers to look like her and pull on her in this way, it really makes me start questioning, when do we lose our humanity, right? And I say this because, yes, these officers have a job to keep peace. That's their job. And I get that their life is on the line every day. We don't know, average people, we don't know what that's like. I don't know what it's like, for example, if I go to the radio station and fear my life. I don't know what that's like. So for them, they do have that kind of fear, like what's going to happen with my life. We don't know what that's like, the average person, when we go to work. However, even with that, there has to be some type of training, or moment that we say, when do we stop being human for our job? You know? Because at some point, some officers should have been like, okay, let's try to de-escalate this and get her child from her. Something. But to rip the baby, and imagine the trauma that the baby is going through. Imagine that trauma that her son is going to have, being torn from his mother in that way. And they are yanking and yanking. I could barely watch it. I could barely listen to the screams of the mother, the screams of the onlookers. And, you know, I don't want this to be a conversation in the sense of, being negative to the officers that protect us in the world. I don't want that. But I do feel that there's no way to talk about this without acknowledging this excessive force that keeps happening over and over. You know, you don't know what a person is dealing with, and not everyone is a criminal, you know, and I guess it used to be innocent until proven guilty, but we can see even in these videos, it's this, I have to assume the worst in you, not I am here to help you. And I think that's really what's missing with police officers. I can remember, and I talked about this on our radio show, Adverse Reaction. I talked about this and this idea of being a child in the 80s where you had Officer Friendly, and Officer Friendly would come to your school, and Officer Friendly who came to your class and spoke to you about drugs and stranger danger was the same officer that was in your neighborhood, you know, and that person you knew. And those days seem over. You know? COP, Citizens on Patrol. I think that's what it stands for. That's what the movie was in the 80s. It was Citizens on Patrol. And it's like citizens is first. That word is first. And it's really, really disheartening. It's scary. You know? I don't know what escalated, but whatever it was, it feels like, couldn't somebody step in and try to de-escalate it, as opposed to ripping her child out of her arms, to arrest her, to send her to Rikers because she didn't want to leave. That's what all the reports are saying, is that she didn't want to leave. Where is humanity in our world? That's going to wrap up In Our World for this week. Another thing that I want to talk to you about that got my goat. Now, I don't usually follow the Kardashians, but it's hard not to, you know. If you read news, they're going to pop up. And so here's something that was pretty much all over the place earlier this week. Kendall Jenner. She posts a love letter on social media. Now, I'm not going to go into full details. It's one of the 76er players I don't follow. This is what they're saying, man. They had the nerve to put the letter up and then put a signed basketball under the letter to say, look, it's really him. You can see the handwriting. But the man took the time to write a letter. Whoever wrote the letter, somebody cared enough about her, a millennial, to physically write a letter in cursive. That's the best handwriting I've ever seen in my life. And write this letter about how much he misses her and wants to, you know, be with her soon, that he wishes he could be with her in this moment. And it's so romantic. And now you have every Tom, Dick, and Harry reading this letter. And so I wanted to talk about it because I'm just like, is nothing safe from social media? Is there anything? I mean, he wrote her a letter on purpose. He didn't text this to her. He didn't shoot her an email or a DM. He said, let me get my nice pen and put it on paper and write it. And she was like, that's so sweet. I got to share it with my millions of followers. That's what it sounded like to me when she did it. So I'm just like, shame on you. Somebody, any of her sisters, maybe her mom, somebody needs to kind of like have an intervention, like a heart intervention, humanity intervention, and just say, you know, if the man was willing to write you a love letter just for you, it should be just for you. And this that's why I'm not even going to say his name. You want to find him, look him up on your own. Because if it is him, I don't know if it's him or not. Again, I don't follow. But whoever he is, he doesn't want the world to know. If he wanted the world to know, he would have posted it himself. All right, now I'm done with that. I just had to say it. Because I tell you now, if my little KJ write a love note in cursive, first of all, he took the time to learn cursive. Then he took and got himself a nice pen from the house, a nice pen. Then he took the time to write the letter so neatly. And his girl post that letter. Y'all might see me in the news. Might see me in the news. And I'll be old as hell, but y'all might see me in the news. Man, so yeah, let's just wrap up this show for this week. It's been a lot going on in the world. I'm just going to tell you, if you're still checking out this podcast, thank you so much for joining each week. And I pray for each of you, that you are healthy and safe and protected. It's crazy times that we are in. Unrest across the globe, not just the yellow vest protesters, but terrorist attacks, even in our home soil here. Multiple hate crimes in the past few days. Just disheartening times that we're living in. But it's important to say that we are not alone. You are not alone. And if you are watching this, if you are hearing this, know that I pray for you specifically. So as always, thank you so much for joining the show. Continue to email Danella@DanellaNOW.com. Thank you to everyone, those of you that have listened to our show, Adverse Reaction, Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. on WOL. If you're in the DMV, that's the DC area, you can listen on 1450 AM or 95.9 FM. And online, a lot of you are joining online. Thank you for that. It is www.woldcnews.com. We start 7 o'clock. Yep, weeknights. Thank you so much to those of you that have supported the show. Truly appreciate that. So yeah, it's been another week down on that show and more weeks to go. Have an incredible weekend. And I will see you next week.